Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are doing our second day of our density lesson. So far we've just talked about what density is and how to identify whether something is more or less dense based on what it looks like in a graduated cylinder or a beaker. And today we are going to learn how to actually calculate density. So we're going to be doing a little bit of math, but I promise it is not bad. It's pretty easy. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So just a reminder, density is defined as the mass per unit volume. So remember, another way that we can say this is how much stuff is in a specific area. So how much stuff is being fit into a container. Remember the example we used were those jelly beans in those jars and how much volume was taken up by those jelly beans. So it's just a measure of how tightly packed and how heavy the molecules are in an object. So it's just the amount of matter in a certain volume, the amount of stuff in a given amount of space. Okay, so how do we find density? Well, first off, we have to find the mass of the object. Now, for you guys, since you're virtual, a lot of your problems are going to be, the mass is already going to be given to you. But if we were in a laboratory setting, we could find the mass by using a digital scale or a triple beam balance. And that's that picture right here. It's just a way to measure the mass of an object. So first we have to make sure we know our mass. Then we have to find the volume of the object. So in these problems, you'll either be given the volume, or if you were to calculate the volume, if you had a material that was a solid, remember to calculate volume as just height times length times width. If you're looking for the volume of, say, like a round object or an irregular object, you could use a graduated cylinder to do that. And to find the volume of an object using a graduated cylinder, you measure the volume before you place the object in, right? So here it would be 20 milliliters. Then you would measure the volume after you add the object. So here it goes from 20 milliliters to 5 mils. And then to find the volume, you just subtract. So 25 minus 20 would just be 5 mils. So for this marble, its volume would be 5 milliliters. So that's how you find the volume of an irregular object. So if it's something like a rectangle, you can just do height times length times width. If you're using a graduated cylinder, you just basically measure the displacement of the water to find the volume. Then once you have your mass and your volume, you can just divide. So remember, your density of an object is equal to the mass in grams divided by the volume in milliliters. Also, you can see it as centimeters cubed as well. So you'll see these units as either grams per mils or grams per centimeters cubed. Okay, and we always want to remember our units. Okay, so let's do an example. So remember, we have to find our mass, find our volume, and then we need to do our problem, our division problem. So remember, our density is our mass divided by our volume, so M over V. So here's our example. If the mass of an object is 35 grams and it takes up 7 mils of space, calculate the density, okay? So here's how we set up our problem. First of all, you always want to start with what you know. So here we know that our mass is 35 grams, right? So we were given the mass in the problem. The volume is 7 mils, okay? So our formula, we know that density is equal to mass over volume, and we want to find our density here, okay? So we're going to plug in our knowns into that equation. So our mass is 35 grams. Our volume is 7 mils. So if we plug that in, 35 grams divided by 7 mils is going to give us 5 grams per milliliter. So this particular object, the density would be 5 grams per mils. Okay? And that's pretty much it. I'm going to record an additional video showing you guys how to do some of the calculations in your assignment for the day. But for calculating density, all you have to know is that formula. Density equals mass over volume. Now you could also backwards calculate. So like if you were given density and volume, you could also find the mass or you could find the volume. As long as you have two of your knowns, all you have to do is plug it into your formula and then solve it as a mathematical equation and you should get your density. But of course, if you guys have any questions or need help with anything at all, let me know and I'll be happy to help. All right, guys, so that's the end of this one and I'll catch you in the next one.